Hello everybody, this is FIDE Master Dalton Perrine back with chessuniversity.com, and this is another video in the Tactics Time video series we're going to be doing today. In this video series, I'm once again going to be working on solving different tactics trainer positions on chess.com. With each position, I'm going to first of all show you the tactic, then I'll give you the chance to pause the video so you can work on solving the problem yourself, and then I'll be explaining my thought process and showing the different solutions to the varying puzzles that we look at. So, without any more waiting, let's go ahead and try some tactics out. Put the start button and see what is done here. Okay, so in this position, black has just played e takes f4. It is white's move in this position right now. Go ahead and pause the video and see what you can come up with for white in this position here. Okay, so in this position here, starting off with our forcing moves, I don't see any checks that we can do against black's king at the moment. Just don't really see any way to do that right now. Are there any captures? Well, we can capture the rook on e8, we can capture the knight on g4, and we can also capture the bishop on b5. Now, between these three captures, we also need to note that our rook on e1 is unprotected, so black is threatening to take our rook. For example, if we take the knight right now, black will just take our rook, and losing a knight, losing a rook but gaining a knight, that's still going to be a loss of material for us. So we have to figure out the correct order. It's probably going to start off with just trading rooks here. If we take his rook, black will take back with the queen or the bishop. Then it looks like we can just simply capture the knight on g4, and it looks like that's going to win us a free piece in this position. So rook takes e8, black takes back with the bishop or queen. We take back with we take the knight on g4 with the pawn. Black doesn't have like a queen e3 check because we can just trade queens. And if black tries queen e1, pinning our bishop, we can just play, I think we can just play queen f2 and defend the bishop and keep everything safe there. So let's go ahead and trade the rooks here. Okay, so black captures back. I wonder if taking on b5 makes any sense. I guess we could also think about that. Bishop takes b5. Black takes back, then take the knight. Does that make a difference? I'm not crazy about trading the bishop, though, because then once the bishop's gone, our king has less protection. So I think we just take the knight here. Okay, cool. So it does actually say that's the answer to the puzzle. So we're up a whole entire rook at this point, because we still have the rook on a2. So it's all about just figuring out the correct order of moves. We would like to take the knight for free, but we don't want to lose the rook. So we just trade the rook first, and then take the knight after that. Okay, let's move on to our next position. Okay, so in this position here, black has just made the move queen to c3. Go ahead and pause the video and see what you can come up with for white in this position here. Okay, so white's moving this position here. Again, looking for forcing moves. First of all, queen c3 does attack our queen on f6, so any forcing move we do probably needs to take that into account, that our queen is hanging right now. We have a couple different checks. We have queen h6 check, we have queen takes d6 check. We do not have queen h8 check because black will just go ahead and capture our queen back on h8. Rook g8 check I don't think does much because the king just takes it. So really I'm just looking at the main two checks, queen takes d6 check and queen h6 check. If we do queen h6 check first, black will play king e7. That's pretty much the only move. And I don't see the follow-up there. We don't have rook e5 check or rook e1 check because the queen covers both of those squares. Once the king's on e7, I actually don't see an answer for what we should do there. If we do queen takes d6 check, the rook's going to have to block. That's the only move. We could swing back over to h6 now with the knowledge that the rook is blocking the way for the king. So queen takes d6, rook blocks, queen goes back over to h6, the king would have to go to e8, and then we have a new check, rook g8. When the king's on e8, the king can't take the rook on g8. Rook g8, the king moves, take the rook on a8, and I think we can end up winning a full rook in this position. So I'm looking at queen takes d6, rook blocks, queen h6 check, king moves over to e8, rook g8 check, king d7, and then simply rook takes a8, and I think we win a rook. So let's go ahead and go with that route. Take the pawn, Black does block. Swing black back over for this check. Okay, so in this example, they're making the queen block, but obviously we're just going to take the queen there. And that is the answer. So if black had not blocked with the queen, if black had instead moved the king over to e8, then we would play rook down to g8 check, the king goes to d7. We could even, I guess, continue attacking. Don't even need to take the rook. You could go rook d1 check and continue attacking there. So rook g8, I'm sorry, king e8, rook g8, king d7, rook d1, king like c7, queen d6 would actually be a checkmate there. So, okay, so there are a couple of strong moves for white here. Figuring out the correct order of checks, because you always want to look that extra 1 or 2 moves deep in order to get the best result. Okay, let's move on to our next position. Okay, so it's white's move in this position here. Black has just made the move bishop to c5 check. It's white's move. Go ahead and pause the video and see what you can come up with for white in this position. Okay, so in this position here, it's white's move. Obviously, our king's in check, so we really don't have too many options here. The only options to get out of check are either to take the bishop, knight takes c5. We could move the king. We could capture on b3. I think those are really the only 2 options. I mean, technically, you can go to c3 or king c4, but it doesn't make much sense when you have the option to take the knight. So really, it's between do we take the bishop or do we take the knight? I tend to lean towards just taking the free piece, unless there's some kind of bad reason for doing that. But if we take the knight, I don't see what black can do special to follow up. Black's bishop on c5 would still be attacked by our knight. The bishop on f3 would still be attacked by the rook. So I think taking the knight's the right move here. Now, we would also want to consider and double check knight takes bishop. The problem with knight takes bishop is that the knight can capture back, and that's going to be forking our 2 rooks. So we don't want that to happen. So I think this one's pretty straightforward. I think we just go ahead and grab the knight here. Okay, so it does say that's the answer. So white is up white's up the exchange, plus probably going to trade off the knight for the bishop soon. If this bishop moves away, we also have like rook g3 check ideas as well. So white's looking pretty good in this position, having just won a piece on b3. Okay, well that's it for this series of tactics here with the Tactics Time video. Once again, there were some situations with figuring out the correct order of moves. We had to figure out how do we deal with a check in this last puzzle. We had to deal with a mating attack in the previous one, figure out the correct order of checks in order to get the strongest attack possible. So anyways, a couple of interesting positions. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed them. That's it for me in this video for chessuniversity.com. Hope to see you guys around in another video in the future. And I hope to talk with all of you guys again in the future. All right. Bye, everybody.